I'm sitting in the Blackmagic booth, so I feel that I should just say something. I think the little pocket camera from Blackmagic is one of the nicest little cameras for the money that you can buy. It's ProRes, has a wide dynamic range, it has almost 12, 13 stops, and exposed well, it does a beautiful, subtle job. I haven't used the Ursa yet. I hope to. I'd like to test it and see how well it does. But I'm also particularly interested in they may be able to replace the chipset in it. And then I'd love them to take away the finder and the giantness of it and try and make it a little smaller. The Pocket Cam is still, for me, without testing the Ursa, is still their best product.
Does the Pocket Camera find its way into your work? Have you used it?
I use it extensively because it's so tiny. Take an example, a limo scene that I directed this episode, a couple in the back of a limo, shooting down the body of the Alexa with the Alexa, and when we got one camera, we realized we were going to fight to get two. I've had two in there before, but it's a bit of a fight, and I wanted to be inside the car to direct. So I suckered a Blackmagic Pocket Camera on the window doing a two-shot, and we continued to shoot the master, two-shot from the Alexa and the singles, and then I flipped it over and stuck it on the other side and did the other angle. And I got beautiful coverage with the windows closed, matched perfectly, really quite spectacularly well it matched. Not quite the same resolution as the Alexa, but the color space was almost identical. It was a lovely, lovely experience to have that as a tool in your pocket that you can put anywhere and know that you're going to get great files. Plus, because they're ProRes, they go into the stream perfectly with the post guys, have no problem with it. And I think that's just a great magic little tool that they've produced.
It's startling to put a pocket camera next to an Alexa and use them together.
Oh yeah, but why wouldn't we? We've used GoPros whenever we could, when that was the only thing you could fly in a drone or whatever. That was the camera of choice, and because it does such spectacular footage, you have to use it. You know, you use it.
That's just it, the right tool for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And because your suspension of disbelief is still intact, you go with it. You're not suddenly thrown out of it. You might be if you used an old standard def camera, right? But these are all high def bodies. Even though they may have smaller chips or larger chips, they're doing a really nice resolution job in HD, 1920 by 1080. Plus, these guys make an upres now. The Express Terranex will upres to 4K on the fly out of Thunderbolt. And that's a very interesting little sleeper tool. As my people, at the end of our season, we posted with a company called MTI Films in Hollywood. They have become one of the best upres companies in the city. They took our files and upres them. All our executives came and looked at it and said, this is really good. We do not have to shoot in 4K. If people ask us, we'll deliver, and we get to keep our 2K post stream intact. It's not going to cost us any more than next year to do our posting. Because the moment you go 4K with your acquisition, your post costs go through the roof. And when you're on tight times, as we are, everybody wants to shave another 10% off your production. Every year they want to take it away. You do not want to go out and suddenly say, oh, the post guys want 4 times their budget. Ain't going to happen. It's not. And it's about content. And particularly in terms of drama, it's about the casting, the performance, and the writing, and the story you're telling. And when you tell that story well, at any resolution, in the lower grades, you will be sucked in immediately. And when we lived in cinemas for probably almost 100 years, where the only image on a screen was a 1K file, because by the time you went through the various prints and the neg pars and the release prints, you were down to about 1K, and yet nobody complained. And now we're being obliged to watch these files that are so ginormous to capture in the field. Although I have to say that I did hear a story about David Fincher shooting in 6K or 8K on his latest picture because he really wanted to reframe everything. And of course that's his choice. As a cinematographer, I hate reframing. I expect you to be asking me and I'm giving you the frame that I want for that particular moment. I don't want you to suddenly push in on it. So that's a particular use and a tool. And he's delivering a 4K file. But I think now we're at we've gotten to the point where that's enough is enough. First off, if you're shooting humans, faces, and you have a woman in her 30s, 40s, 70s, she is not going to be kind to being photographed in 4K. And the first thing I'm going to do is put on a quite aggressive filter, a lovely diffusion, to take it back down to something which just mesmerizes what would otherwise have been glaringly obvious skin failures. And I think that's part of my job. But the moment I put that filter on, where did my 4K go? Out the window. I'm way back down there again. Maybe 1500K, 2K, because of the type of filter. Plus, if I lock it off, I'm fine with the higher resolution. But if I pan, or things move in the frame, the resolution falls apart again. And it goes back down to something which is more manageable. So I have a great desire to say, 4K, do we really need it? But secondly, it's boiling down to various cameras having their particular looks, and some of them have failures and some of them have positive points. There's the 6K Dragon, there's the Alexa family, there are other cameras that are fighting, the Scion, the Blackmagic, and there are a variety of these cameras now. When you take them out and you use them, you'll be using Kodak Fuji or Agfa, and it's that kind of thing that you should be looking out for now. Does it satisfy me as a picture-taking tool without image manipulation in post? I want to know what the camera does, so that when the files leave me, they exhibit the kind of qualities that I want my clients to see in what I shoot for them. Not that the client then take that raw file and manipulate it the way they want to. I mean, I want to give them what I feel it should be right off the camera. And so you choose a camera that gives you the most beautiful file. I think at the moment there's a great pursuit for more pixels, but I think it's at the detriment of dynamic range. And I know that one of the booths here is showing the Dolby high dynamic range comparisons, and they are shooting with double Alexas with a split mirror to achieve different exposures on each camera to extend the dynamic range up to 20 stops now. And so that's exciting to me. That's a particular area that I think will render a better experience for people in the cinema. I'm just unsure of how far we can go with the 6K, 8K kind of progress that people are pushing on us.
Of the people I know that have actually ordered a 4K camera, what I've been told is, particularly one person I spoke to, he bought an F5 more than a year ago. He said he hasn't used 4K once, not for a single job. No one has asked him for it, and it's still an HD world that we're living in.
Absolutely right. I work for broadcasters who are broadcasting HD, 1920 by 1080. They are not going to suddenly put their transmission system into a 4K mode, because it's billions of dollars that they need to expend, and they have right now at the crossroads of not knowing whether or not they'll ever recoup that investment. I don't see how they can.
With the work you do, you could be shooting on any camera you choose, and yet you have to make the decision. How does it work?
Fortunately, the decision was made for me. I had been an ARRI guy for many, many years, and as the Red came on board and I adopted it and I shot shows with it, and I was challenged by the color space. I didn't like the amount of red and the challenges and the noise in the red channel that the camera did. And I actually shot some of my shows in the beginning at a 5,500 Kelvin temperature so that I didn't have to deal with the failure of the chip. Now, the chips are much better, and there's no question that when you look at a 6K Dragon alongside an F55, alongside an Alexa or an Amira, there are very close. But there are still some noise issues in both these other cameras, and I like the fact that ARRI has said, we have a chip with large buckets. We do dynamic range very, very well. And all we need to do is go slightly larger on the chipset and up-res it just a tiny bit, and we'll give you 4K. So I can now go back to America knowing if a show says you have to shoot 4K, I can say I can use an Amira. because I'm very, very happy with the look of the Alexa, of the ARRI chipset. I think it's the best out there, but yes, it costs a fortune. And there's no question I can't justify buying a camera like that unless I have 15 or 22 episodes on a show that I can kind of rent it on. For a documentary cameraman, that's a big challenge. Unless you're on a BBC thing and you're on a 6-month gig, then that's something you can see. But the guy that's day playing 2-3 day jobs, that's a big amount of money to put there. On the other hand, I've never pushed the button on an Alexa and not had it roll. Never. And I've done 6,000 hours continuously with that camera on my own, and it's never let me down. So that's a great feeling of satisfaction. I never didn't push an ARRI or a Panaflex camera, push the go button and didn't have it start. It never happened.
And do you like the fact that, I mean, you would have used ARRIs for years on film. Does it give you a really nice feeling to still be using ARRI now?
Yes, absolutely. And I was lucky enough last year to go to the factory and signed an NDA and saw all kinds of things that were very exciting for the future of the camera manufacturer. They're lovely people. They're brilliant at manufacturing things. And the whole digitization of our world is in good hands with those engineers. That's not to say that the Japanese engineers aren't on a par, but what Sony has at its bedrock is an impediment to their progress into drama. They're still a video-based organization. They make most of their money selling broadcast television camera systems to the television channels all over the world for shows, live shows in studio. And their color space is not satisfying to me in the way that the Alexa color space is. Now, there are many people like Fincher and a whole list of people who love the red color space, and I'm fine with that. But at the moment, for me, if I want to tell a story and engage you in the emotion of it, I'm very, very happy working with the Alexa chipset.